Andy Stanford-Clark of IBM is Master Inventor and Distinguished Engineer. And I think you get that sort of title by doing what Andy's done and having, is it 42 patents you have by your name?
That's right, yep.
Andy's been at IBM for 18 years. He lives in a 16th century cottage on the Isle of Wight. And this is a modern sort of 16th century thatched cottage. It's connected to Twitter. And we're going to talk a bit today about data, obsessive gathering of data from all sorts of things, from mousetraps to fridges. Andy has connected all sorts of things in the house up to electronic sensors and devices, and he's going to talk a bit about this new era of pervasive computing. I didn't actually realize until just now, in the first issue of Wired, back in May, we had a feature about people who are obsessively life tracking. Life tracking is this emerging trend where you're running, you're swimming, you're listening to music. Everything you do, you track the data online, and sometimes you share it with friends, or sometimes you just look into patterns in this. And Andy was named, I think he told me, on exactly page 147. It's
a bit too geeky, but I think it was, yes.
Behind us, you can see elements of Andy's pervasive computing life. I mean, tell us what we're seeing here.
So these are some of the things that are dotted around my house. Top is the house twittering. On the right-hand side, we've got an ambient orb, which displays green, amber, or red according to how much energy the house is using. And we've got some down in the Innovation Lounge over in the Randolph, where you can see the ambient devices showing other bits of information. In the middle we've got the famous electronic mouse trap, which sends me a text message when we catch a mouse, so that I can find out and know that and replace the cheese. My electricity meter is wired up to the internet, so I can tell every second of the day how much power the house is using, and it often twitters something like £15 worth used so far this month, or excessive usage at the moment if we're running our pottery kiln or something. In the far bottom right corner, we've got the reindeer lights, which you can text the reindeer. So you can text reindeer on to my house, and the reindeer lights come on. It's a very cool stunt at Christmas. And the water meter is also part of the system as well.
Well, this is not just an obsessive master inventor playing for his own pleasure. I mean, these technologies will have wider implications, and we're going to talk about that for about 15 or 20 minutes. First of all, Andy, what is the value in connecting your items up to these sensors and twittering about it?
Well, linking up to Twitter is just one of the many possible output media. The main reason for linking things together is so that we can find out more about the world around us. Because at the moment, if, for example, my hose pipe started leaking in the garden and was pumping water out into the garden, I would have no idea until I happened to stumble across it. Whereas with this system, it's monitoring the flow of water every litre, and so I'll get a message which says, you seem to be using an unusual amount of water. So it's all about this sea of data which we can gather from sensors around us, and then we can apply intelligence to that data to make information and then knowledge about the world around us, which enables us to save energy, use things we've got more efficiently, waste less, optimize the processes in our business, or really just make sense of the world around us in a way that we couldn't when we didn't know what was at a remote location without going to look.
And you can control this on the move. You can monitor it on your phone.
Yeah, so I've got a cool application which my colleague Barrett Beddy over there, again, come and see it in the Innovation Lounge, can both monitor and control things from a live dashboard on my phone. Do you want me to show you?
I think we want to see, don't we?
Want to see it? Yeah. So I wouldn't normally try this, but as it's TED, I'll risk a live demo. So here we go. Music maestro, please. Hey, how cool is that? So just a video out from an N95. How awesome is this? So this is the live dashboard of stuff at my house. This is how much energy we're using at the moment, 3p an hour. That's the electricity meter reading. That's how much water we're using. And if we go up to the lights are currently off. If I click on this and then do turn on, it sends a message to my house, comes back again, and the red light turned green. That means that what lights are now on at my house. Now, I mentioned that Twitter was one of the interfaces for this. If, David, you wanted to go onto my house on Twitter and check, I think you'll see that the lights have been turned on.
So everybody here could follow you on Twitter. What's the account?
In fact, I can just show you that. There we go. Oh, that's turned on. Let me just refresh that.
So Andy _ House.
Yeah, Andy _ House is the Twitter account. Outside lights turned on. Whee, how cool is that?
I've seen some pretty mindless tweets today, but...
So phone is ringing, heater turned off, gym temperature is warm, life is good.
You're using too much water, Andy. It's 100 litres so far.
Yeah, that's quite a bit of water. Several people have Twittered me and said, man, your house uses a lot of water. So I say, well, how much does yours use? They have absolutely no idea. So how can you possibly say I use a lot? Actually, I think we're fairly frugal with our water, but it's people go, hey, that's a really good point. I'd never thought of that. It's not until you monitor stuff that you realize how much or little you're using. You might think that your electricity bill is big or it's small or just have some sort of feel for it, but most people just don't care. They just pay the bill every month. But it's only when you start tracking it over time and realizing that actually there's 200 watts of stuff that are on all the time. It's £1 per watt per year. So if something's on for a year, it's £1. So 200 watts, that's 200 quid you're just wasting. If you turned off that Wii remote, Wii game, or the phone chargers, or the scanner, or the clock on the microwave that's flashing saying, please set me, that's £5, £10, £15 straight back in your pocket, and it all adds up.
So you see information as a way of modifying behaviour?
Absolutely, yeah. And but again, you've got to know how bad it is before you can modify that behaviour, and then you continue to monitor it after you've made the behavioural change, so that you can see what a difference it's made, whether that's saving your electricity bill, or improving the carbon footprint, or the windows of your house aren't open, or whatever.
And do you need to be a distinguished IBM engineer to set up something like this? Is it extraordinarily expensive and complicated?
Well, if you'd asked me that 2 or 3 years ago, the answer would have been yes. But commoditization has kicked in, and a lot of people are now interested, actually care about things like energy usage and water usage and CO2 and stuff. So a lot of this stuff that I invented as sort of one-of-a-kind, Andy soldering iron type stuff, you can now buy off the shelf. Linking it all together with the work I do at IBM, which is how it kind of all talks to each other. And now anybody, probably for about, I would say for about £150, you could probably have your house twittering basic information.
I should explain that it's not just Andy's house he's rigged up. He lives on the Isle of Wight, which is an island off the south coast of England. You have to use ferries to get to the mainland. And Andy got a bit impatient that he didn't always know if the ferry was going to be running on time. So tell us what happened next.
So the guy who records the message that says the ferries are running on time doesn't get to work till 9 o'clock in the morning. So at 7 o'clock in the morning, if the ferries aren't running on time, the phone message will still say they're running fine, because that's what they were when he left work at 5 o'clock the night before. So I was thinking, oh, there's got to be a better way of doing this. This wired world and sensors and smarter planet. There's got to be a better way. So I thought, I've got to know where the ferries are. So I had a Google around. It turns out there's a system called AIS, Automatic Identification System, which all big boats are required to have. So it's basically a GPS with a radio transmitter, which pings out the location of all the boats that are bobbing around in the oceans. And various people with a radio receiver plugged into a PC can pick up this data, and they feed it very community effort into this central database. And regardless of where they are, you can go and pull out a slice of data from this database that says, these are all the boats in this area. So now I've got the live positions of all the ferries. I then do a thing called geofencing, where we compare where the ferry is to a circle around each of the ferry ports. And if the boat is entering or leaving that geo-circle, then we Twitter to say, Red Jet 3 has arrived at Cowes, or Red Jet 4 is leaving Southampton. And so now the ferries Twitter, completely independently of the ferry companies. I was running it for over a year before the ferry companies suddenly put this new live status on their website. I was going, oh, this is cool. I wonder where this is from. It was the RSS feed from my Twitter feed. So I phoned them up and said, I think we need to talk about this. Anyway, so they've now taken my open source software that I developed for this, brought it into their data center, so they're now running the Twitter feeds for their own ferries, which is a load off my mind. Because hundreds and hundreds of people are using this every day to track where the ferries are, and their PR campaign is all around, track the ferries on Twitter so you know where they are, and it's all very high profile, so it's great.
I've been reading some of these tweets, and okay, it's not as much fun as following Stephen Fry on Twitter.